Hello students, today we will learn the merchant banking. I am Utya Basu, assistant professor from Brainware University, Kolkata. So these are our contents. We will learn about the merchant banking, the definition, then what were the origins of the merchant banking, then the different services, and obviously the differences between the commercial banking and the merchant banking, and about some institutes which are offering the merchant banking in the India and outside India. So let's begin. So before starting the merchant banking, first we have to note what is a banking. That we all know it's a business activity of an financial adversary that accepts deposits and channels and those deposits into lending activities. Means nothing about those means getting the money from the people and once again putting them on the people's fund, and giving them interest, taking the interest from them, and the margin will be the profit of the bank. And that should be either directly or through capital markets. There are some few services offered like savings or current account, the savings for the individuals and the current for the business bodies, the home and personal loan, and there are also different kind of loans, the mutual fund activities, and the nominal activities like collecting checks, drafts, notes, and other things. Now, besides those normal banking activities, the merchant banking starts way belong on 17th and 18th century in Italy and France, in those western areas where it starts in the era started in London. I think all of you know the term the merchant of Venice, means, and the merchant started to finance the foreign trade through acceptance of bill. Means the bill concept actually started from that time. The merchant banking officially came in India through the Greenless Bank in 1967. Recognize the requirements of the upcoming class of entrepreneurs for diverse financial services. Now, uh, before we continue, we should know that the word merchant bank does not have a fixed definition, as this term is used differently in different countries. In like in United States, it is called the investment banks, and in UK, means England, they are known as the accepting and issuing houses. According to the notification of the Ministry of Finance in India defines the merchant bankers as any person who is engaged in the business of issue of management, either by making arrangements regarding selling, buying, or subscribing the securities as manager, consultant, advisor, relation to such as issue management. So we can say that merchant banking is not actually the normal banking. So except those normal banking, there are some special activities, there are some special services which are offered by the merchant banks. Now there are some few other institutes who have joined the activities like Citibank, then Indian Bank, then obviously the SBI, the main nationalist bank at that point of time, and many other banks like ICICI, the Canara Bank, the UK Bank, etc. So what I have already told, that the bank that deals mostly in the international finance, the long-term loans for the companies, and the stock underwriting. The merchant banking primarily involves financial advice and services for large corporations and wealthy individuals. So actually they are the means the service providers. They actually give the different plans and different portfolio activities and the different wealth management activities, not only to the individuals but also the business bodies. The merchant banks do not provide any regular banking services in the general public. They invest their own capital in client companies and provide services for mergers and acquisitions. A merchant bank is sometimes said to be as a wholesale bank or in business of wholesale banking. So the term wholesale banking came after the merchant bank starts its proceedings. So if it's like a wholesale banking, then we can say it's a merchant banking. So they are almost the same meaning. It's because merchant banks tend to deal primarily with other merchant banks and other large financial institutions. As of today, there are 135 merchant bankers who are registered with SBI in India. This includes all the private, public, and the foreign players. Now, uh, In this way, we can say that merchant banking is an institution that deals mostly in international finance. These banks are experts in international trade, which makes them specialists in dealing with multinational corporations. So, if normal people or the country depends on the normal banks, the normal financial institutions, the business models are actually dependent on those merchant bankings. Now, these are the services which are actually offered by the merchant banks: the corporate counseling, the project counseling, the WCF, the portfolio services, the restructuring strategies, credit syndication, lease financing, and some other services. Now, in this regard, there are some services like issue management. Means the issue management is a service which deals with the issuing equity shares, the preference shares, and the debentures that acts as a partner for a high net worth client by issuing shares and debentures to the general public. And those means there are also the portfolio counseling. The portfolio counseling is a service where a merchant bank invests in different kinds of financial instruments on behalf of clients as well as managers the whole investment. Now, talking about the project counseling, it is also involves the filling of application forms and trying to fund projects through banks or financial institutions. The loan syndication, there is another important service which is given with the merchant banks, which means the bank provides term loans for the projects that need to money. Now the corporate counseling. Now what is corporate counseling? The corporate counseling activities undertaken for efficient running of an enterprise means it's all about the business. The identify areas of growth and diversification, the guiding them to the in the some vocational factors, the organization size, the investment decisions, and the choice of product. So the merchant bankers actually the bank who actually helps the business organizations. Mm, Then I already told about the project counseling. It's a part of the corporate counseling. It comprises the preparation of project report and deciding finance pattern, then filling applications with significant information from obtaining funds. Then the most important thing is WCF, means the working capital financing. We know the working capital means the current asset minus current liabilities, which is actually the fund which helps to meet the day-to-day expenses of an organization. Then the assessment of working capital requirements is very important for a business. So with a proper assessment and preparing necessary application to negotiation for the sanction of appropriate credit facilities are one of the most important service of all the merchant bankers in India. Not only in India, you can say all over the world, the WCF is one of the main service provided by the merchant bankers. Then the one of the another important service, the portfolio management. It means the making decisions for investment of cash resources of a corporate enterprise in marketable securities. It decides quantum, the timing, and the type of security to be bought. And it also helps the achieving maximum return with minimum risk by proper combination of securities. It means the individuals or maybe the business sometimes get confused that what the where to invest, how to invest, and for how long to invest. So it's all about the putting the money in the right area or in right place for the right time. So there are some risk diversification, some risk mitigation also. Means if they are looking for a quick return, then there will obviously the high risk, and if they are looking for a stable return for a long time, then there will be low risk. So the business means the business need to allocate those resources in such a way that the some money will be invested in such areas where there will be high return with high risk possibilities, and the other portion will be in those areas where in long run there will be maybe some low risk comparatively, but with means low return comparatively with the low risk procedure. So if there is a possibility of losing the money from the high risk areas, so that can be negotiated, or that can be managed from those low risk areas. So this is known as the portfolio management. This is one of the important service of the merchant banking. Merchant bankers provided for the business bodies. Then there are obviously the corporate restructuring for policies. They mainly deals with the mergers and acquisitions, the different terms and conditions at the time of merging, how much you have to buy, what will be the different purchase considerations, what are the different terms and conditions about taking up those assets or liabilities, and the loans, the debtors or creditors. So we can say it's a specialized service of merchant bankers wherein they act as a middleman in negotiating between two business bodies. It offers expert evaluation regarding the identification organizations with matching characteristics, obtaining approvals from various authorities. So there may be, so it's not like that only the whenever there will be merchant, there will be merchant banks. So sometimes before the merger, they start their works, means to which body or to which business we should the merger, we should get merged, or who should acquire us, or whom should we acquire. But there are some very important decisions. There may be some horizontal mergers, some vertical mergers, some consolidate mergers. There are, so before merging, so there are some important decisions, and obviously the after merging too. So the merchant bankers, there are some professionals who will help the business bodies in these situations. That what kind of assets and what kind of liability should be purchase considered, and how do we will acquire, what will be the procedure, what will be the strategy at the time of acquisition, how they will deal with the different kind of shares and debentures and loans. So all those expert opinions can be given to the business bodies by the merchant bankers. Then there is obviously the credit syndication, which relates to activities connected with the credit procurement and project financing. Means it's all about giving money to the business bodies for their project. So before means giving the money, they should look after the project, look after their possibilities of return. The risk factors will take place. They have to estimate the total cost, the draw up the financial plan, which confirms requirements of promoters and their collaborators, and selecting institutions for participating for financing. So it's not all about the project financing. It's almost, we can say, the project financing and the credit syndication are very much related with each other. So deciding upon which project we should uh, give money, and the decision that what will be the project cost and how much we will give it to that project is very important. Choosing the project is important. What kind of company it is, how long will be the project. So these are the areas which should be taken, we should be give importance by the merchant bankers at the time of credit syndication. Then there is obviously the lease financing. It's an important alternative source of financing in a capital outlay. It involves letting out assets on lease for use by the leasee for a particular period of time. It can provide advice on viability of leasing and choice of favorable rental structure. So, what kind of asset and who will be the leasing? What are the terms and conditions? For how many days the lease will take place? And what are the legal matters? So all these things are the part of the lease financing, and obviously the how much finance will be there. That means how much money will be brought in the lease are the factors. And there are some other services like helping to the sick industries by rejuvenating old lines and adding units by the comprising technology. So it means the merchant bankers not only goes his project related and portfolio related work. They also helps us in the other areas of the economy of a country. Means they help the sick industries to rehabilitate, and to once again that they can gain the old demand in the market, and they can get the old market share. Means how they can back up, how they will come up with those all those bad days with the less demands. So they help us to get the market, they help in the branding, and they help with some loans to them, and exploring possibilities and mergers or acquisitions also. Means from relieving to the sick industries will also be a path for the merger or the acquisition. Means the merchant banker will go for the sick industries where there is a possibility the other big companies can acquire them, or there is a possibility that two or three sick industries they can merge together. So and after merging they need money, so there will be financing. then they need plan to make their money into more. So there will be project management, there will be portfolio management, there will be loan syndication, everything. So this everything is related for those merchant bankers. So they are starting from the ground and then going to the sky. So it means everywhere where they go, they will find that chain, and through that chain, they will work in such a way that business bodies cannot think beyond those merchant bankers. And obviously, the mutual fund services, it's collective investment scheme that pulls money from several investors and channels them into productive investments and assuring investors return of the terms of capital acquisition. Now, apart from those activities, there is also, you can see, there are some underwriting activities. This is one of the main services offered by the merchant bankers. It is a guarantee that states that if the subscription is below a specified level, then the merchant banker has to subscribe to the said amount. Now, in the screen, we can see the differences between the commercial banking and the merchant banking. That from the commercial banking side, we can see there's a category of common man, and the other side is corporate body. Then anyone can open an account in a commercial bank, but that cannot be done because those activities are not in the part of the merchant banking. Then there's less risk and more in the merchant banking related to secondary markets and obviously related to the primary markets. The commercial banking is obviously related to the asset oriented, where merchant banking is more or less means the activity oriented, or maybe you can say it is a management oriented. Then it's a role of a financer which is played by the commercial banking, but the merchant bankers play differently, like underwriting, portfolio, etc. There are some advantages and disadvantages of market banking. Uh, the merchant banks performs functions that cannot be carried out by business on their own. And they have the access only to the traders and financial institutions, all those big guns and markets that companies or individuals could not possibly reach. By using their skill and contacts, merchant banks can get the best possible deals for their clients. On the other hand, the loopholes, maybe the merchant banks are really only for those large corporate customers. So we can say means they are only giving the favors to the business bodies or the corporate bodies, and not all deals carried out by merchant banks meet the unqualified success. So sometimes there are some black holes, like those loan areas and those portfolio areas where they are giving not good advices to the corporate bodies, to the MNCs. Sometimes there is a bad acquisition happen. Sometimes there is a there are some unpopular merging in the country which can affect the market of the country. There is always a risk attached to the kinds of deal that merchant banks undertake. So if they are doing so much of good things and they are dealing with all those corporate bodies, so there should be some risk areas, so which you cannot uh, which you cannot avoid. Now, these are some institutes which are offering the merchant banking: the SBI, the PNB, the Bank of Maharashtra, the KVB Bank, just the SBI Bikaner, and the IFCI, and the other areas. The so if we go to the history, so we can see the merchant bank got more importance in the year 1983, when there was a huge boom in the primary market, where the companies were going for new issue. The merchant banking activities are organized and undertaken in several forms. The commercial banks and foreign development finance institutions have organized them through formation divisions. The nationalized banks have formed subsidiary companies, share brokers and consultancies constitute to themselves into public limited companies or register themselves as a private limited companies. Now, some merchant banking companies have entered into the collaboration with merchant banks of foreign countries abroad with several branches. So we can see there are also some private sectors like ICICI, Axis Bank, and Reliance, the Kotak, the Yes Bank also. And what I was talking about, those foreign bodies like Goldman Sachs, the Morgan Stanley, the Barclays, the Bank of America, the Citigroup Global Markets, and the DSP Media. So those are some international, very famous merchant banks. Merchant banks. So hope you have some clear idea about the merchant banking or the wholesale banking, we can say. So in the next time, we will find some other interesting topics. So if you like my channel, you can subscribe. So till then, bye bye. Stay safe.